my 4 years of engineering. My first year of engineering, I had around 6 papers. I had 3 backlogs, right? And that's when I figured out electrical engineering is not my cup of tea. The vision for the company is basically experiment as much as possible. In the past 1 year, I've experimented a lot. See, I have like a couple of experiments around me. So this is one such experiment that I made. This is a toy which we're trying to develop. Dieter Ram. Okay, so he's a well-known German designer. So he was the forefather of designing products like these. The art of a designer is to steal, right? And the product which you have stolen from, the ideas which you've stolen from, shouldn't look the same. In the servicing servicing field, it's always been difficult to always, let's say, meet 100%, right? So I think these guys are happy. What I see value is the strategy we have, right? So the strategy at which we execute, I think that is something valuable. To be really frank, I don't know where the future is going. Saying, given that there's AI, okay, and I've seen tools where it can generate design, and I've seen tools where I can just upload a design and edit, like upload a screenshot and edit the design. There are a lot of times when I thought, like, okay, let's shut this down. Like, okay, let's not do this. Okay, why are you losing your hair because of this? I never gave a about what my designation was, right? I just was very keen on what I get to work on.
Hey all, welcome back to our podcast. So today we have a special guest with us. Let me introduce you to Shylesh, who is sitting besides me. So Shylesh started his career as a design guy. We will talk about it a lot in this podcast, like what exactly the design. It's more towards a product design, not the design what you are thinking about in a cloth or something like that. It is more towards something, a product design. And currently he is a founder of Togepe, which we would get to know more about it from Shylesh. So I hand it over to Shylesh. Shylesh, if I missed anything, please let know the viewers, listeners about yourself. And this would be really a wonderful podcast that we would be having together. There are lots of questions that is coming to you.
Hey man, thanks for having me on this call, right? And like you said, I do all kinds of design, and I think you gave me a very good introduction, right? It was really nice. Certain points, yeah, like details, maybe we'll talk about it a little later. But yeah, before I claim myself a designer, I would claim myself as an experimenter, I would say. Right? I'm basically an experimenter. Like I like experimenting things. Design is also kind of experimentation. The kind of experimentation which I was doing down the road back then when I started my career, and the experimentation I'm doing right now is of a different scale, right? So yeah, thanks for having me, and I'll talk a little bit of my company that so it's been like a decade that I was just helping like a lot of startups to scale their design. So what I thought was like let me package that as a service, right? As a design service, and help the early stage startup and who would want to like come up with designs, any design. Like it could be like user interface design, experience design, product design, like physical products as well, branding, logos, and all these things, right? So we want to come out with these consumer like material very quickly. That's the reason I put together a solid team of designers with different skill sets and started this design studio called Togepe. Like Togepe, like the Pokemon, right? So I've been like a Pokemon fanatic for a while. I used to play Pokemon Go when it was not here and available in India, and I lost interest when it came here to India. So I that's where I got my name of the company. So I hope it's interesting, the name of the company, and maybe let's talk about my journey a little later.
Thank you, Shailesh, for that short and brief introduction about yourself and about your company. So before we start into your founder journey, I would like to ask you how you came into this field of design. Like you mentioned in early stage that you started designing everything, like designing in product perspective, branding, logos, and everything. How you came up to this design? What brought that interest in you in all this kind of designing?
Yeah, dude, I think this is a really long journey, I would say, and a lot of experimentation for me as well to understand what am I good at, right? So I had the dilemma, like once I was done with college, I was always at a dilemma of like, what should I do now, right? Like, should I basically start off with uh, like doing engineering, right, or I should start off with doing something else, right? And I'm from a place called Coimbatore. So when I was looking for a college, I didn't know there was a college for which taught design, right? And I thought the only design which was there in the market is all these brochures and graphics and banner designs, right? And it was very intriguing. And I've seen these people just sitting in front of the computer for a long time, right? And pushing out these banners. I thought I have to go sit at a printing place and then understand, learn all these things. So I did my 4 years of engineering. My first year of engineering, I had around 6 papers. I had 3 backlogs, right? And that's when I figured out electrical engineering is not my cup of tea. And then I just kind of moved on, and then I was exploring few courses, which was after like which is different from what I was doing. I saw this course which was basically for graphic design, and I was like, okay, cool, man, let me go take it up. And I actually spent like a year, like going to the morning college for engineering and evening, basically spending time at my course. I learned all kinds of design. I started making money on my first, almost like after my first semester. It's like I used to get like logo design projects, all that stuff. That's when I thought like, okay, Silas, this engineering is not for you. You're good at this. So at the later end of my career, like probably like after 4 years of college, right? I left college with around 27 backs. Right? 27 backs was my thing, and I had like 6 semesters. Like on the sixth semester, I had 27 backs and my current 6 papers. So they're sitting in the corner, like, dude, I should just let this go. But yeah, so I started my college in 2009. I finished my degree. I got my degree in 2020, right? So, and I used to go back home like every 6 months once to give my backs. I wrote M1, like Max M1, around 20 times. Right? So it's a this journey, like so like never give up. I was like Mohammed Ghazni, right? Like just kept on like giving it back and forth. Like every time I used to write my exam, I used to like, oh damn, I scored 16 marks today. This semester, next my pass mark was 50 marks. So I was like, how do I reach that? So then I completely lost interest. And after I was done with my college, I took up a graphic design program. So when I was walking all the way to the bus stop to go to college, I saw a small dingy place where he used to like, it was a design firm basically next to a tree, right? So and there, next to that there was a small railway crossing, right? I went there. I asked him like, "Sir, can I apply for a job, part-time job?" He said, "Yeah, just sit and make me a business card." Right? And then I was sitting there like tapping all the keyboards, took some 30, 40 minutes. After a while, after like 1.5 hours, this guy was really patient with me. After 1.5 hours, he said, I gave him the design. He's like, oh, not bad. I'll give you 2,000 rupees, right? And you can come work for me in the evening. And that's my alleged first job, which I didn't take eventually because of my parents. They're like, okay, dude, you already have 27 bags, and you're going to join a job, then all my money is going to go down the drain, is what they said. Right? And then that's when like I started design and graphic design, to be really frank, and started with banners, posters, and all that stuff because I didn't know there was something called user interface or experience design back then. Back then, people used to call web design. So there was no application and all this stuff. So, and I gradually transitioned, like in the next 2 years. As soon as like, 2 years I was in Coimbatore doing all these graphic design, illustration, and different kinds of stuff. And from there, I kind of shifted to a metro because that's where the exposure is at, and it's kind of close by to my house. Right, Saturdays, Sundays, you can just jump back home. So I got a job here as graphic designer. Sorry, not like UI designer here in Bangalore, and that actually opened my eye. I got an opportunity to work with IDCNs, right, who have actual design background, right? Like people who have been learning design for the past 4 or 5 years. That actually had a huge learning curve. Like the peer learning is really amazing. Right? So you can learn only few things by yourself, but when you've been taught or when you've been discussing ideas, or like peer learning is amazing in terms of design at least. And I was working with 7 other IDCNs, and I was sitting there without a degree. I hadn't finished my degree back then. Yeah, that's how my design career started initially. And then slowly I moved on, picked up more things, like, and then I started approaching all problems from the design's perspective. Right after like 2 3 years in my career is when I got diagnosed for ADHD and dyslexia. Right when I was in school, I thought I was like dumb. Like, man, why can't I read these text? Like whenever there was a class where they asked me to come read, like there was a Sherlock Holmes novel, right, in English, which normally happened where teachers ask you to read, like start doing role plays. I was always Sherlock because my name starts with Shylesh. And then like I had like terrible days back then when I was trying to read these texts when the text was all over the place, right? And one more thing is like I can't understand read a paper and then understand because I had a huge problem initially to read PRDs. Right? How do I read a PRD? How do I understand the problem? And then how do I analyze and how do I solve? That was a very difficult problem for me. So that I only I only got diagnosed after, let's say, when I was 25 years old. Like not even 25, sorry, 23, 22 years old. Right. So this, yeah, and eventually then I started like then design became a, what do you say, was the strongest weapon. Like like let's say for a product manager, right? If you start thinking, you'll not think visually. Like at least if you look at a problem, you start looking at numbers. But for a designer, at least for me, I find that as a gift because dyslexic people, they're kind of very visual. So I look at a problem, I start putting these pieces into a map, and then I just try to solve it in my brain itself. Like at least certain parts of design, which is very easy. So yeah, that's and yeah, I eventually will start. Like I was working on my gaming startup. I was working with Cult. Was working with a couple of other like unicorns as well. I worked with early stage startups as well down the road. And after I was at Cult, I had a gaming idea, and which I wanted to like somehow execute. And that's where this was in 2001, and sorry, not 2001, 2021. And I wanted to kind of give it a shot in terms of entrepreneurship, right? And I wanted to like pitch VCs. Like, how do I pitch? Like, how do I since I've been a designer, right, for a while, and the best traits of a designer, what I see is storytelling. Right, I wanted to somehow tweak my story in terms of explaining my problems into and explaining my designs into something of a different narration. Let's say, tell a story to a VC, like okay, tell them a good story where you could raise funds. So I tried a lot of places. Like as in, it was an experiment for me as well, and then eventually landed a seed check where I started my entrepreneurship, where I started my designing and gaming gig. Back then, when crypto was really huge, we launched a game in it was a hyper casual game for cricket, and it later got acquired by Bold, and I started a design firm after that. Right? So I wanted to like play with my strengths after that, and also like somehow sharpen my entrepreneur journey, and yeah, like help with design. So that's how I became a designer. I'm still a designer. I do hands-on design every day.
When you mentioned about this designing, so right now, if people who want to go into design, they have to do education, right? They have to, like earlier it was more, the field was not that competitive. You had an experience from a person who gave you a chance to work on design. Then you prepared something, visiting card for them. Then you got that design thinking from your side. So now if a person who want to get into design, how he can get into design? Is there any educational background they required, or is it like they still they till they do the practical, then only they would get to know about design, or how exactly it would be from your side?
See, I've interviewed at least in the past. I've at least interviewed 2,000 to 3,000 odd people, right, in the last decade. So, so very simple. Like I've found a huge difference in terms of people from tier one colleges and aspiring designers who have a different domain. Right. So I would say if you want to pursue in design, let's say if you are in your PU or your 12th standard, right? Try to start researching about design back then. Let's say if it's then join a design college. If let's say you join something like an engineering like me, and you have like passion to design, I would say go join some internship. Like go join like a unpaid internship for a year or 2 years. That unpaid internship is going to teach you a lot in terms of projects that this 4 years of design degree will not teach you. So sometimes, right? So I learned my skills basically from internship and like experimentation. Um, I've seen people who pick up design really quickly. If you are from a design college, right? Let's say you miss that opportunity, then you move into this direction where you do internships. Courses, I am not very sure, but cohorts maybe. Right? Courses is kind of difficult. Let's say they run you through a program, right? And then you absorb what you can absorb. Right? Some of them would be lost, right? And that's all. It has its own curriculum, right? So there's no peer-to-peer learning there as well in a course. But I would say like a cohort, let's say like 7 or 8 people join together and there's something being taught, there's group activities and all that stuff. Uh, that can actually help a designer. Like I would say these are the steps I think you should follow. Let's say somebody who who figures out that they're good at design initially, then join a design college. Okay, it'll reduce a lot of steps for you. And if you think that okay, you did something and then you want to transition, go join an internship, and then you have YouTube, man. YouTube gives you everything, like basically. These are the two things which I would suggest any designer to like come into design.
Yeah. So Shailesh, just one question. You were also mentioning the turning point of your life was the Cult Fit, right? Cult Fitness in 2021, and you was also the head of product design in Cult Sports. So I wanted to know more about that journey. Like, people want to know about it. Like, what exactly you did in Cult, because people might be thinking it is as in a fitness, and what design there. Like, people might be in a shocking way. So,
Journey actually. I actually spent only 6 months there. I'll tell you like how I started. So there was a company called Red, right? And I was the design head, basically. And I had like a team. We were trying to do multiple things. Like I was handling content creation. But before that, I'll tell you what the problem statement we were trying to solve. We were trying to solve like since COVID was at its peak, right? 2019 end all the way to 2020, 2021, right? So I joined them at 2020, sometime early 2020, and so the problem what they were solving is fitness, indoor fitness. within equipment, right? Where because all the gyms, everywhere else was closed. So you can't even go out for a walk without getting that permission letter, without getting your asses whooped, right, by the police. So that was the case back then. So this was the problem, and this is what we're trying to solve. So initially, what we did was we had a stationary spinning cycle with a monitor, right? So which was very similar to Peloton, right? And we were importing these cycles from China and selling it here with content, basically with a subscription. Basically, you buy the cycle, and then the content which comes on your cycle, spinning cycle, is been is from us, basically, right? So we started off with basic content like spinning content, and we were trying to figure out how do I retain this user. Right? So content was one thing which I was kind of handling. Editing the content, how do I make this content appealing? What if I'm not stationary, if I'm in motion, and how do I consume this content? Right? What is the distance I need to have from my cycle all the way to my face, where my face is always on motion? How do I consume that content? How do I understand what the person or the instructor in that video is saying, and how do I kind of trying to do the same thing with the instructor is saying? Right? This was my initial problem in terms of content, and then we had to make UI, like user interface, for the tablet. We had like a landing page. We had like an app, like a buddy app, where you can see what's your progress, like what was your progress in your current workout, like that, how what kind of badges you won. Like we had some gamifications as well going there, right? So somehow to retain the users, like apparently that users who have bought our cycle were the 0.01% in Bangalore and all the metros, where um, and they didn't care about the companion app eventually, but companion app was actually something which was really good for few people who were very constantly trying to work out, constantly trying to improve their score, and were very competitive. And after that is when we thought of like developing a cycle in house. Okay, how do I make in India? And we were kind of like, I worked with a product designer, an industrial designer, where we were trying to come up with a cycle, right? Where indoor stationary cycle. And I also worked with the designer who designed Peloton itself, right? And we were trying to come up with something which is very unique, right? And which was cost efficient to manufacture, and it was durable, right? Because we see that the people who have bought our cycles were on the heavier side, so we wanted to also cater to that audience, and easily shippable, lightweight, and all that stuff. Like all our criteria was that we had to cover, and yeah, and I did that as well for a while, and apparently we got a cult acquired us, right? And then I was put in cult sports, and then I was working with cult sports, like designing their landing pages and all that stuff, right? And yeah, and there was few other interesting people I got to work with there, and that's when I had this idea where I wanted to kind of start my own, and started pitching and all that stuff. Like, so this was a different journey. Like I had to transition from being a designer and completely learn and experiment and understand few skills on how do I convince somebody to invest in me. That was something which was interesting.
Yep. So my next question is that only to you. So how was that journey of transition from a design guy to being a founder? How was that journey?
Mm. I would say it was not. There was a lot of learning. Like every call I had, there was something new I learned. And then I used to use that on my next call. And then I used to have like a cumulative points which I have to cover, because most of the calls were almost similar, right? Right, and I within the first 10 calls I could understand how do I pitch these people, right? So it was not very difficult, I would say, but and it was not easy as well. Since I could adapt, since I was able to adapt very quickly, maybe I got something, and it was a bull run, so maybe that also helped me sometimes. Like, sort of.
What is the vision behind Togepe and how you ensure that your team consistently deliver innovative and user-centric design for the solution? How you do that?
See, the vision for the company is basically experiment as much as possible, right? Even the teammates I hire, I'm looking for a certain type of skill set, right? Which can add value to the company. So it's not about delivering, crafting amazing design. It's also try to experiment as much as possible, right? And give them the best solution. Let's say, see, you can't get to a design output which is 100% on the first go itself. Like it will take some iteration, it will take some time. So I have handpicked people in terms of helping the company solve problems in a certain way. And also, our motto is to experiment. Right? So, being a designer, you have to experiment. And the second thing is like storytelling, right? So, you have to have a convincing story. Like, say, as a company, let's say if I'm solving a problem, I have to explain how I solved my problem. So, certain things like that. If a designer can't talk, and if his design can't also talk, it becomes very difficult. Right? So I also look for people with good communication, like who have different ideas. So as a single motto, I would say experimentation. Like in the past 1 year, I've experimented a lot. See, I have like a couple of experiments around me. So this is one such experiment that I made. Like, this is a toy which we're trying to develop, right? And there are a few things here which I don't think I can show you right now, but yeah, that's that's my main motto, and then these ones are my added motto, right? And we also pick up clients who kind of resonate with our idea. Like say we don't pick up clients where they want the designs to be done like, okay, we started this today, I want it to be done by the next week. So we don't pick up certain hurry problems, right? Because I can solve it properly. So that's the reason we don't do that. And yeah, so this is what our motto is.
What are the core principle you follow when you design a product, and how you balance the aesthetics and functionality of that product?
Okay. The book called Design of Everyday Things. Like that was my first ever design book I've read, right? And then I started following a couple of designers after that, um, like Dieter Ram. Okay, so he's a well-known German designer. So he was the forefather of designing products like these, right? Like this is like very old, right? So this is a very old design and still functional, right? Stuff like this. So I was looking at designers who are doing good things, like who are doing great things in the field. First, I read these books, understood each book gives you a direction in how to solve a problem. Um, but I have my own ideas on how to solve a problem because this has always worked for me. Right? Let's say if there is a problem in terms of like a digital problem, right? So I'm trying to make an app. First thing I would do is do a detailed research about how this product, what are the competitors, right? And post that, absolutely look for a PRD. That's one, right? And once I have that, I'll have a workshop with the product manager, try to understand the PRD better. So understanding the problem is my first solution, I would say. So I understand the problem better, and then once I understand that, it's easy for me to solve. Like I'll break down the problems into multiple steps. If you break down the problem, half of your solution is done. And then once we break down the problem, then I address the problems with a lot of references. Like I take a lot of references. There's some problem or something which is similar in the market, like something which is already solved. There's always a solution, not 100% matching, 1:1 match, at least like a 50% match, right? So you can start collecting these, what do you say, mood boards, like all these things which you can use in your design, right? So the art of a designer is to steal, right? Uh, and and the product which you have stolen from, the ideas which you've stolen from, shouldn't look the same, right? So um, people shouldn't know where you stole this from, apparently. That's how you do. Like the reference is one way of stealing. Right? So I take a lot of references. I take things which is very in sync with the product, and then try to use them in the product. Make a design guideline, make a brand out of that, make all the widgets and components, and then you try to solve. UI is very easy once you understood the problem and once you have a clear wireframe and all that stuff.
Now you mentioned about your client expectations, right? So sometimes your client says this and all that. So how you maintain, like how you so you have also mentioned in your LinkedIn, so I would comment down in the LinkedIn like profile of Shailesh and his company. So you have mentioned in the LinkedIn also, like you do beyond the client's expectation. So how you do that, and can you share any of one of the client, like you don't need to mention the exact client, but one of the design that you have exceeded their expectation and they were like overwhelmed with your design, whatever you have done.
Like most of our clients are overwhelmed, right? So, um, but I don't have anything on top of my mind, but there's something which we recently did. Okay, so we were working on a multimodal chat interface, right? Which was AI powered. So you throw whatever information at it, it gives you feedback, right? So we were working for a health tech product, right? So what happened here was, let's say, to retrieve information about patients, right? And to retrieve and to give certain level of prompts to retrieve that information. Okay, these were something which was very challenging and which was not done in the market yet. So we first thing was we were working without a solid PRD, right? And it was very difficult to understand the scope of the project itself. And the scope kind of kept changing because it was a very experimental project, right? And so it took us couple of weeks, let's say almost a month, I would say, come up with the first phase, like the phase one of the design, like the version one. So the version, so we had like, it's very hard to explain this because there were no KPIs to meet, right? So there was no metrics to satisfy. So the personal satisfaction is something which I have. I don't know. I think even the client has the same, right? But the problem like this, solving a problem like this, which I haven't seen it anywhere so far. So taking references were really hard, right? So in that too, in this particular health tech genre was really difficult. So we came up with a solution which was almost 99% match of what their expectations were, right? So it's in the servicing design servicing field, it's always been difficult to always, let's say, meet 100%, right? So I think these guys are happy.
Now you were mentioning about PRDs, like the viewers and listeners might be more confused about this acronym of PRD. So basically, it is product requirement document. So I just wanted to know, now you are being a founder like of Togepe. So how you write this PRD? Do you have any kind of product manager for your organization, or you yourself do this initial part, gather the requirement and write everything by yourself? And how this process has been worked in Togepe?
See, we're not a product company, right? So since we're not a product company, there's no necessary need for writing a PRD. But let's say the ideas we execute, we have like voice notes and notions. We don't have like certain goals. We don't have outputs. We don't have KPIs to track. We don't have use cases. We don't have a flow diagram. There's nothing there in the PRD basically. We just have an idea, and then it evolves over a period of time. Whatever ideas I have so far and whatever PRD I've written so far, right? Um, so recently, I was experimenting with one of these YouTube channels I started, right? And the major problem I had was um, the editor. The editor spent around 4 hours or 5 hours of time to edit a particular shot, right? Which was actually taking up a lot of my time. Which was editing, which was taking a lot of our time in terms of delivery. I was not able to launch. I was not able to give a lot of feedback. If I gave a feedback, it pushed another 1 hour, right? So these things were a problem. So we wanted to solve it through a product. So what I did was we already have a product where you give a prompt or you give an idea of the video which you want to post. Right? It creates a script. It creates images. It animates the image. It also creates an audio for the script. It creates sound effects. It creates the background music as well, right? And it patches them all together. It packages them with the subtitle, right? Um, and gives you an output within a matter of 15 minutes. This is something which we built in house. We haven't named it yet. It helped me scale from I've already scaled the channel from 0 to 100K in a matter of 45 days. And this uh, tool helped me scale it to 160, right? A 60K extra in a matter of 15 days, right? So we have at least for the next 40 days of content we already have that we already generated without spending a lot of money on video. Like we have my each video costs around like few dollars, like say $15 or less than that, which was quite high when I had like a designer. So coming back to your question, I would say that I think I'm not the right person right to answer that question because I don't write a lot of PRDs. I'm more of an execution guy. I know what is needed in a PRD, right? Like multiple use cases, your happy case, your edge cases, and all that has to be there when you have a PRD, right? So certain things like that, maybe I'll be looking for, but me personally, I would start giving them voice notes because I'm dyslexic. I can't spend time typing. Every word I type, there'll be some spelling mistake. Autocorrecting feature, right, is going. It'll be like always there. Like just every other word is a spelling mistake. So that's about that.
So you have a gold mine with you, like lots of people right now are there in social media and YouTube and all that. Now you spoke about it. So are you planning to launch this gold mine? I'm naming it as a gold mine. So so what's your future plan on to that? Because I definitely know like there are lots of courses also in regards to what you are speaking. So recently I had seen a video wherein a person is what you mentioned, the similar way he also mentioned like how this process of short needs to be created. You need to prompt to a chat GPT, then you get a script and all that, whatever it is. So they are running it as a course and they are selling it out in a huge pay. So what is your looking what is your plan into it? Like you are you planning to launch a product with some subscription model or something like that? Because I definitely know this is a gold mine.
Yeah. I don't want to do B2C, by the way. So I don't want to launch this as a product. Like there is already hundreds of products in the market, and it takes half a brain to build what I've built, right? So seriously, I don't see any value proposition there. But uh, what I see value is the strategy we have, right? So the strategy at which we execute, I think that is something valuable. Maybe I think we can have a course, right? But not anytime sooner, I would say. But I would want to build something around my channel, Right? Say, let's say I make some good amount on ad cash. Like all my videos are broken even. I'm right now with this tool, I'm 5xing all my videos cost. Right? So I thought like my goal is to make another 200, make 200K and then build a product around the channel. Right? So, and also look for niches in the market, right? Where I start creating a content, and then once you have some leverage in terms of content, then you can start building a product or a brand around it. This becomes an amazing GTM, right? This becomes a good distribution channel for you, right? So I feel rather than selling a tool, I would sell products instead. I felt so. I think that would is what I will be doing soon.
Shailesh, you have also worked in cross domains, right? Different types of domains like healthcare, banking, then IT sector, different types of domain. So, how you make sure that you are adapting this process and creating design specific to that domain? So, how you keep yourself updated into that?
Yeah, this was very difficult back then. It was taking me a few months to even get to know about this particular domain. And my switch was always in a different domain. I would say I've never worked for the same domain twice. Uh, it is for a reason as well, because I see that it gets boring after a point of time for me at least. Right. So and that's what actually helped me in terms of starting my own firm, because I have like a vast knowledge in different domains. Uh, so now I use Perplexity, right? I use ChatGPT, and I use like few other tools, right, to understand about the domain. Like the first few weeks, I'll do some user research. Let's say if it's a D2C brand, I'll just go down to the store, right, and understand how the customer reacts, how's the customer experience like, and also if they have a digital product, I'll just go through the product, maybe buy a small ticket size product, see how the customer experience is, right, and then start researching online, and then start talking to few of the early customers which they already have. Also, the company helped me in huge context where they gave me like few contacts of customers where I can just speak to them, ask few questions, and try to understand these guys better. Right? And we also have like different personas in a particular domain, right? So I at Edureka, like I used to work at Edureka with yeah, and there I made it a point that I spoke to at least 5 to 6 people per day, and that actually helped me a lot. So I made a community product there. I made multiple products there. And if you go to Edureka, what you see, the landing page, what you see is the one I designed in 2018, 2006, 17, 18. Right, back then. So, so most of the things I would say is like that. So learn the domain better, take some time, like 1 2 weeks, right? Learn better, and always it's a learning curve. Like the day you spend time with the product, it's always learning about the domain and how do you cater to that particular problem. Um, that was one. Now it's made my life very easily. So if I have a client, I start training a chat GPT chat where I just put all these personas, I put all these case studies, I put all my PRDs, right? I put how the user interacts, right? I put everything there, and then I keep asking the chat GPT like, how would this guy interact? How would this guy do this? What is the customer journey map like? And all these questions are seamlessly answered. It also gives me a wireframe, so most of my problems are already solved, right? So and for yeah, I think that's about it. That's what I do normally right now. There's nothing much needed basically, I would say. If you follow these things, it's sorted. It's made your life easier. So now what I did, if you have like a different persona, I give this chat gpt bot to the client itself. You can also train along with me, right? Okay, this is your thing as well. So if you have a new persona, put that persona on the chat bot so that everybody learns, right? So that was something which AI is helping us do. So yeah.
Now you mentioned about these people, right? So there might be stakeholders who are non-technical, who do not know anything about this design. They might be only investing it, right? So how you deal with that people, and how you showcase them that this is my design idea, you need to go with this design idea, and how is their approach towards this?
Non-technical stakeholders. I refrain myself from talking to those people itself first. But yeah, it's on that was a softer joke. But I would say that see, non-technical. If it's a salesperson or if he's a marketing guy, so you have to talk to him in the language he understands, right? Talk to him in numbers. Talk to him in something which is tangible. Let's say I was working with a stakeholder who's very much who was a business analyst, right? So how do you make a business analyst understand that okay, moving this button or moving this thing is going to improve your design? First thing is it's the product manager's job, but let's say since I was a product manager myself, so like as an entrepreneur, which involves product management as well. It was kind of difficult initially, but I kind of it's the way of communication. I would say it toned down that stuff. Talk less about numbers. Talk more about what you're trying to achieve, your goals. Right. So this is what I'm trying to achieve. This is my direction and all that stuff. Let's say most of them. Let's say if you're talking to a VC, they'll be very much worried about how my money is being spent. Like what is my money? How long is my money going to sustain you and all that, right? And when do you going to plan? When are you plan to raise the next round? All that thing is there, but uh, yeah, I don't know how to answer this question, but you have to take what do you say, a direction or an approach or a persona which kind of uh, eases the communication, right? Tones it down, talks a little business, and not talk about a lot of product.
What do you think? What would be the future of Togepi? Like, are you going to move into more into gaming stuff, or you would stick into more into design perspective itself?
So gaming, I for there's a reason why I quit gaming because I didn't want to be in B2C space, right? I wanted to be in B2B space and simultaneously build products, right? So that's the reason why I moved out of gaming because it's highly B2B, sorry, B2C, right? So and apart from that, how I see Togepi is we have few product ideas, right, which is going to enable us to come up with better content. So we will be pushing a lot of content, but not as from a brand called Togepi, but different brands like diversify, right? So you can build a product very easily, right? You can design a product very easily, right? To market the product and also to acquire the customers. Okay, that is the the most difficult bit. So I didn't want to solve the right way. I want to solve the from backwards, right? Let me get the customer first, right? Let me get my distribution channel sorted, then work backwards, and then work on the product, work on the design, which is very easy right now. It's like very easy, right? You might be knowing better. So that is that's the direction which we are going at the moment. Like even with our YouTube channels, right? We have few plans for the depending on our content. So we have few content which is very religious, and we have few content which is very comical. We have content where we talk about history. We have content for let's say a same religion but a different language, right? So we wanted to come up with content which sticks to the user. Let's say based on the language he speaks. Well, I can understand few other languages, but if it's in my own local language, I understand this and I have a better connection to the channel. So that's the analogy and that's the thesis we're going with. So we want to focus only on lingual content uh, and probably build a brand around it later.
What is the future heading for UX and UX design? And is there any specific skills or tools the designer should know if they want to go into this UX and UX design field?
See, to be really frank, I don't know where the future is going. Saying, given that there's AI, okay, and I've seen tools where it can generate design, and I've seen tools where I can just upload a design and edit, like upload a screenshot and edit the design. So, at the level of the pace at which this is going, I don't know what to expect, right? Uh, even in terms like, but very unique problems, right? That which AI can't solve is where we designers come in. This is what my take is, right? Like the problem I was talking about earlier for the health tech company. So let's say if you want to make a landing page, the designer can't solve it. It's just waste of the designer's time. You can use a AI. Like maybe there'll be a tool soon coming out where you just give it a prompt. Like, okay, I want a website. Huh? Already there. See, simple. Like already, most of the designer's job is on strike right now, right? Because of this. Yeah, and also the features which Figma is refraining from launching few AI features, right? Because of this, because they don't want the tool to be very automated so that anybody can use it. So there's some learning curve for Figma right now, but the learning barrier will be easily removed if you have AI. Like even product manager can design like very quickly because there's no designer needed itself for certain projects. Um, I see in the next 5 years you would not have the same designations what you have right now, right? And I also see that uh, the interaction with the device, right, is not going to be touch, is what I feel mostly. Right? Let's say you have this phone where your interaction point, your touch point is basically with touch, right? Imagine there is no button, there is no touch face. Like I have it in my what do you say, my glasses, specs. That's how I see design progressing. The best design is something where you don't have to design, right? So something like that. Like say, basically, like I don't need an interaction. Let's say if you are having an interaction, there's a learning curve for the interaction. If it becomes natural, that's how I see design in the near future, at least. And I think there'll be a lot of VR and ARs coming up really soon. So you'll have to start adapting to that particular style of design, right? Where there is interaction, but very less interaction. There is voice commands. There's maybe you can have something like where Steve, what's this guy's name who was in the chair? No, what's this guy's name? Forgot his name. Like he used to communicate with blinks. Stephen Hawkins. Yeah, maybe I'm not sure. Yeah, so maybe we will communicate like that. There was a pattern by Apple where they're trying to read your brain waves through from your ears, like with your AirPods. Maybe your interaction point is going to be like that. Right? How are you going to make a website interaction with the device like that? Right? So that is a very interesting problem to solve, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. The reason why I asked this question was the same reason, because as you mentioned, nowadays people are using lots of AI tools and all that. Everyone is becoming designer. Everyone is becoming.
Using an AI tool. See, I had a sketch artist, like Bachelor of Fine Arts. Spent like 4 or 5 years on in learning the design. Now it takes me $30 per month to generate as much as image as possible. I generate 30,000 image in the last month. Right, so there'll be a use case where even the user interface designer can also be, and also UX, right? It's just a bunch of rules. If you have bunch of rules, obviously it can be automated, right? So and basically, if you want to move some numbers, you can play with the rules. It's like basically playing like chess, right? Like I know this thing only moves this much. You have a button. The button can only be here next to my thumb. And I can put the button on top, right? So something like that. Let's say if you play with rules, then I don't see there are possibilities that AI can take over. And something where design where you don't have rules, you have rules, but uh, you have like unique problems to solve. That's where AI can't help you, like at least for now. Maybe later it can also help you there as well, I'm not very sure.
As a founder, what were the some key lessons that you have learned about leadership and managing design business that you did not encounter as a designer?
Oh, plenty of things, I would say. First problem which came to me was, let's say if you're a high performer, you can't expect everybody else to be a high performer, right? It's a very tricky subject, I would say. Let's say, since just because you spend some time, like just because you can solve this problem in 5 minutes, doesn't mean everybody takes the same time. I lost a lot of good designers because of that. Because I was very new. Back then when I was a designer, right? See, you being a designer for a company, a design head, maybe you had mentor few people, you actually work with few people, right? You are in a leadership role, and then you being a manager and an entrepreneur, CEO of a company is completely two separate things, because your money is at like the money inflow into the company is directly proportional to the work you go about, right? But it's not the same as a design head, right? So that has been taken care of. You have problems, you keep solving the problems, where everything else is out of your brain. But in terms of this entrepreneurship, right, it's very difficult. I have 10 things to handle. Like I have to to process salary, I have to do payroll, like I have to raise invoice to the companies, I have to what do you say, do my GST and other taxes and stuff, which is very, very, very stressful. And also think of ideas. There are a lot of times when I thought like, okay, let's shut this down. Like, okay, let's not do this. Okay, why are you losing your hair because of this? But apparently the team kept up with the pace, and it has always been difficult. I say now I have to take care of how do I do GST? How do I do like taxation for your peers, right? And how do I pitch, right, and get projects? What will I do if I don't have projects? How do I have a backup project? There are hundreds of questions. Like most of my nights are sleepless nowadays. Yeah, I would say if you're looking for a 9 to 5 founder's job, don't take this up. It's more like an 18 hours of job right now. I have like more than that actually. I sleep very less. Um, yeah, I would say it's very difficult, but yeah, you'll eventually get to it. Like it's the amount of tolerance you have, right? Like how much stress can you take and you still function properly? There'll be a breaking point. Now I can take up a lot of stress. Like I might be having a breaking point, but it could be fatal as well. But I'm not sure. But till that breaking point is reached, push yourself. That's what I would say.
You are also hiring lots of designer in your company, right? So one advice that you would give to that designer, or one quality that you look to a designer who can build his career into designing, and also as you are a founder he can also mold into that founder, like leadership qualities and all that stuff, what would be that advice?
I feel that I'm not at that mark where I can start giving gyan, right, for founder level people. Right, I'm still learning. I don't know whether I can do that. But in terms of people I've seen in the past, like okay, last job job post I did, I got around 600 to 1,000 submissions, like even more actually in the last year, uh, and I could only convert one designer from that. So I saw a huge problem. I'd say every other designer, I don't know what course or what cohort these guys are going to. They have like a template. Like I can see copies of the same case study these guys are sharing, right? And which is a huge problem, I would say. And most of the case studies nowadays are all Chat GPT stuff, right? And I just waste my time reading all these GPT stuff. So what I do is I directly go have a call with them, see how the drive is, like see how is the attitude of the designer. Does he have a growth mindset? Right? Once skill can be easily taught, right? Like it takes me like 1 2 months, right, where you can teach somebody something if you have the right mindset. So I feel sometimes most of the designers nowadays, uh, there's a study which is not study. Basically, I read this somewhere where 98% or 99% of the designers, so not 98, I mean, not that might not be, the new age designers who are coming out of college are not employable. Like more than 90% or something. I'm not sure. It's not 99%. So which means like you're lacking something. Maybe it's the mindset, or maybe it's the attitude towards design. Maybe it's the skill gap you have. Um, or maybe your portfolio as well. Like don't copy other people's work. And I stopped reading all these case study because it's just waste of my time because it's just chat GPT rendered. And this case study, learning a case study is going to be very like say, reading a case study and understanding his ideas is the way he thinks is very difficult. Like, but 5 minutes of speech can easily make me understand like how this guy thinks. So it's like it's overcrowded. I feel sometimes there's this particular genre, right, where you have a lot of designers like they want you to call, like you can't call them product designers, you can't call them user interface designers. There's a certain terminology they use. It's called UI UX designers. I want to be called UI UX designer, junior UI UX, senior UI UX, and all that stuff. So it's not about the I never gave a about what my designation was, right? I just was very keen on what I get to work on, and so that is how I kind of started as a designer, like a graphic designer, and now having a design firm. Um, Played a vital role because of my attitude towards design. Like I never give up very quickly. Like I said, right, I attempted 20 times in mathematics. So mathematics I finished, like, so I had this last four papers which was never, like, there's DSP, digital signal processing, Max 1, Max 2, and something else like numerical method or something like that. But these four papers were solid, man, solid bags. So consistency was also a key. Like, I was just going and giving exams and exams and exams, trying to improve myself next time. So this attitude, I don't see that in the freshers right now, which I'm trying to hire. Like, so there's something which there's a gap I feel.
Shailesh, thanks for your valuable time. First of all, I would like to wish you all the best with your organization, Togepe. Like, let it grow worldwider and get more and more project into your bucket. And once again, thank you for this time and giving a brief things about designs and how people can evolve from design to a founder and how they can think more into design perspective. So thank you,
Mhm.
Shailesh, for your time, and it was nice talking to you.
Hey, San, thank you for having me here, Sanju. I think it's been I had some good time, like trying to what do you say, answer all your questions. Right, it was very interesting. Some of the questions were very interesting. Even I haven't thought of certain things. Right, yeah. And even I don't have few answers for your question itself. Maybe I just made up some answer on the spot. Right, but very interesting, and I wish you luck in terms of your channel and your and in terms of your career as well. I think you should pursue what do you say, YouTubing as your primary career, right? And I feel that the next upcoming podcast, I would get to see uh, way more better people than who than me at least, and probably get to learn something from your podcast, right? And yeah, man, all the best.
Thank you. Thank you. Once again, thanks for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.